We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Hell yes, I get to ride the dragon.
The hell's wrong with you people?
I know Kung Fu.
Tank, you want to switch?
No, I'm good. I got it.
Stay down.
I could do this all day.
If you had to transform into one mythical creature and then get married to a different mythical creature.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Maximum effort.
How about a magic trick?
HR.
Not an animal.
HR. Is HR.
Somebody call HR down here.
That man is playing Gallagher.
Welcome to the Nerds from Work, your weekly escape into the world of geeks, nerds, and everything that is coming together in this weird Avengers Endgame apocalypse thing for Atlanta Comic-Con. I mean, that's what we're all here for, right?
Yep.
So, hey, as always, I'm Jason Miller, and I've got Josh Tankersley,
What's going on, everybody?
Naru Igbaje,
What up?
and Brandon Miller. No, that's not.
Nice tan, Brandon.
Changed so much. Oh, it's not Brandon. That's Braxton. We'll get to him in a second. But, hey, guys, if you guys are watching us live on Twitch, thank you. Thank you. You guys can follow us on all of our social media. Be sure to check that out at Twitter and Instagram at Nerds From Work. Be sure to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/nerdsfromwork. Supporting us is cheaper than your drug habits. So, I mean, look at that. We're helping you become a better version of yourself.
As compared to the piece of shit you were.
Guys, I gave up one burrito supreme a month, and I'm supporting myself. So look at that. Helping other people. And hey, for everything else, check us out at TheNerdsFromWork.com. Naru has his own thing where we actually let him talk. Typically, we don't, but on the website, we do. So if you want to see that, check that out. But hey, guys, like I mentioned, we do have somebody new here. So let's real quick get into what have you guys been up to? Tank, what have you been up to this week?
So, I did not get to go. I did not get to go see SpiderMan today. I'm going to see it tomorrow after work. But what I did,
I'm gonna go see it tomorrow.
what I did get to go see on Sunday was the re-release of Endgame with the additional scene at the end.
Really?
Yeah, I really just wanted an excuse to go see it.
Wait a
again.
minute, T. You walked right past Spider-Man to go see a movie you've already seen before.
No, Spider-Man wasn't out yet
When did Spider-Man just come out today?
today.
Yeah.
I went and saw this Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. No, but honestly, I just wanted an excuse to go see it again. Oh, yeah. I'm drinking a mixed drink, so cheers.
Sipping apple juice.
Alcoholic.
I know. I just spilled it on myself. Yeah, so I went and saw Endgame again. That was fun. They had a really cool little tribute to Stan Lee at the end of it. They showed some little post
Spoilers!
interview things. They put these little interviews
Wait,
together.
did Thanos die at the end?
Yeah, well, twice actually.
So weird.
Yeah. No, after the movie, they put the Stan Lee, him talking about like his cameos and how much he enjoyed like being in the movies and how he never thought it'd be this big and that stuff. It was really cool seeing some Stan Lee stuff that really tributing him. So that was super cool. Other than that, it's just been. Oh, I bought Pillars of Eternity 2. I bought it this morning and I've already put like 4 hours into it. So the game's incredible already. I'm pumped. I can't wait to get into it. So.
Rue, what have you been up to, dude?
I've been sick. That's what I've been.
Sweet. Next.
Keep it on that side of the computer then.
No, man, it was actually pretty embarrassing at the same time. On 2 Saturdays ago, I was with, like, my wife and I were talking about, just getting more active, and I said, okay, fine, let's go for a walk, and we went for a walk. So we went for this long walk, and I said, hey, I'm gonna do something I haven't done in a while. I'm gonna run. So I break out the old, start running.
You were trotting.
I run approximately 150 meters. I get home.
That's not fun.
And I trigger effectively a sickle cell crisis, and I've been out for the last 8 days.
Dude, wait a minute. Okay, so Naru, how long have we known each other? 4 years. We've known each other for a while.
A while, yeah.
When we met, you made a joke. You were like, "Oh, Jason, it looks like you're in shape. You work out. I'm allergic to exercise. You're physically allergic to exercise. Like, well, this is
I am. Like, if I actually do stuff like that, it could kill me. So, apparently,
Dude, if only I had that excuse.
I know, right?
Oh gosh.
So, Tank went and saw a movie again that already broke records, and Rue is allergic to exercise. Braxton, please tell me that something you did this week was amazing.
The week just started. I got to be honest. It's only Tuesday, and all the stuff you guys talked about, I did, and I didn't really have any big reaction to it. So,
So he's just a better version of us.
we're clear.
Whatever. Done it.
You guys went and spent $15 to $30 on this movie.
no, I didn't do that.
Oh, you got in for free.
Depending on how you say.
We don't talk about that.
That's right. We don't talk about the Fight Club. But no, I
What Fight Club?
I actually did. I saw it twice before, so I'm good to DVD. I don't need to see it again.
That's cool. I mean, I have an AMC A-list, but I still didn't go see it. You know, like,
Slacker.
That's your fault. So, I've been reading this. I don't know who wrote this, but I mean, been reading it, and I know that
Is that for Free Comic Book Day?
that just came to my mind. I wish we had the author on. Like, I wish we had like someone who had like this deep insight into the world of the Cape, because then I would ask him like, "Hey, how did Stan Lee and Marvel really like contribute to creating all of this whole world that he's created?" I wish, Braxton, if you had to take a guess, what would you guess?
I would say he may have grown up watching that stuff, and reading it. Maybe that was a big influence, and just kind of said, "Hey, you know what? What the hell? I'll jump in this and start my own." Kind of got inspired from that. Maybe that's what he did.
Then maybe that's what he did. So, Braxton, why don't you inform all of our listeners, everybody that's checking the show out, let them know who you are, because real quick, it was Free Comic Book Day this year. So
Yeah.
Free Comic Book Day, I go into Galactic Quest over in Beaufort, Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta, and walking around is a whole bunch of stuff that I've seen a million times, and this actually was different. So on Free Comic Book Day, I purchased a novel, like not a comic book, and it wasn't free.
I didn't know you could read books without pictures, Jason. I'm actually kind of proud of you.
Weird.
I'm a little shocked myself. Like,
Right?
really?
Yeah.
That's, man.
Well, I had my wife read it to me.
Oh, that
and
makes
just
sense.
explain it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all right, Jason, imagine this. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Right. Couples activity. Got it.
Yeah. Well, Braxton Cosby brought us together. Okay, he saved our marriage.
There we go.
One marriage at a time.
So we actually met. We talked about it, and we came up. I said, "Yeah, I do a podcast." We started with Atlanta Comic Con, and he said, "I'm doing Atlanta Comic Con." So
Hey.
we thought it would be great to get on a show together and kind of cross-pollinate here. So
That
why don't
sounds
you take
dirty.
a little bit of time, explain to everyone who you are, where you've come from, and this awesome series that you've put out, and how you're changing. Like, honestly, you're reaching out to a whole different group of people who never listened to Cape stuff before. So,
Right. Yeah, well, so I'm an author by night. By day, I'm a physical therapist, so I do a little bit of science fiction of my own, more like science nonfiction. Kind of was the motivation of me getting into writing some sci-fi stuff. I jumped in the genre of sci-fi back in 2010. I was inspired to start writing back then, and I jumped into doing young adult science fiction, which is when I started the Starcross saga, and that was just a labor of love, because it was one of these things where at that time I think Twilight was really big as far as in the movie theaters and things like that, and that whole amalgamation of all these young adult things just went buck wild, and you started getting the Hunger Games and the Harry Potter stuff came out. So it was a hot field to get into, but I really was inspired because there was so much going on. And I said, hey, I'm going to do something a little different. I love science fiction, always have. I grew up looking at Farscape, Of course, all the Star Trek, Star Wars, everybody does that. But I like the different kind of brand of sci-fi, which was more about character-driven rather than story-driven. So I wanted these rich characters to kind of come off the page and have a dilemma and also have conflict, but also together have this goal that looms in the background that kind of drives them towards an objective. So that's what Star-Crossed Saga was. I ended up, winning quite a few awards for it. So I was, very grateful. Like, hey, you put something together and you put it out there and you're like, man, people actually dig it. That's cool,
Right? Yeah.
So that was great. And then I just started writing from there. And I want to think that if this is 2019, I think The Cape might have come out in 2015. And at that time, momentum started coming out with a lot of the superhero stuff. Iron Man had already hit by then, and SpiderMan came back around, and Avengers was going, and you had all these really fantastic stories that I grew up, reading and looking in comic books. And my favorite personally was the X-Men, but they just never really did it right, So I was a Joss Whedon fan, and when he finally got his hands on Avengers, I was just amazed at how well the movie came together. Sure. And I think that's really when I was like, man, I want to do something. But I wanted to do something a little different with The Cape because I had seen and got a little obsessed with The Watchmen.
Nice.
Okay.
Superhero story where everybody was really real and gritty, and it wasn't about these goody two-shoe superheroes that were just perfect. But they had issues. So I said, man, imagine if you went and you took superheroes, where you took regular people, and one day they didn't have any powers, and the next overnight they get caught in this storm and they wake up with powers. What would that look like? You have some people who, maybe broke in, and they get superpowers. Well, they might turn into super villains, or you might have people who, feel like they want to do something for the greater good and they turn into heroes. And that's kind of how the story started. I wanted to make sure that all the characters, the protagonists of the story, had major issues internally that they were fighting with and they were struggling with, and just giving them powers didn't make them perfect. So, what you see in The Cape is a lot of character development where the characters have their issues, but they have this joint objective of trying to stop this villainous group called Dark Phase. But they always fall back to their issues, especially one of the biggest transitional characters in the story was Cheetah Girl. And she, basically was a call girl, got caught in a storm, and all of a sudden, boom, she's got super speed. She's obviously fast. She's a call girl. But though she always wanes back and forth on that narrow edge of, am I too bad to be a superhero? And but maybe I'm too good to be a evildoer as well. So her character arc is really carried by Paladin, who actually wears a mask, so she doesn't know his identity, but he remembers her from when they were in middle school together. And later on in high school, he always had this crush on her, but she was a real cool, pretty girl, and he never attempted to talk to her or even step to somebody like that. And now here it is, he's hiding behind this mask, seeing her being drawn by the villains, and he just wants to reach out and pull her back before it's too late. So that's really how the story evolved. And then I had a publishing company that I own, and I started bringing authors on board with that, and they had superhero stories that they were telling. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and just combine all of them and have them in this connected universe, kind of like the whole DC thing, and we called it the Cosby Media Productions dedicated superhero universe, where all of our characters are referenced in each other's stories. And now, they came together with the first book of the team up called Infinity 7. So that's where we are now. Infinity 7 came out earlier this year. It's won an award, or two actually. It's been recognized twice. And so we're just pushing that right now. And, book 2 will come out next year, and then we'll go into phase 2 where we bring in all the other superheroes. Because right now, we've only combined the characters from my story, The Cape, Minzuo, which is a solo story, and we also brought in the Majesties of Canaan. So Minzuo was written by Keyshawn Dodds, and Majesties of Canaan was written by Kaio Champion. So right now we're working on that unit, and then next phase we'll start to bring in all the others that we have. So really just happy with the way it's been received, and the design has been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
So I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you go with a novel rather than trying to find an artist and do a graphic novel? And just be a writer for a graphic novel.
Graphic novel is always a cool concept, but it's just, I think as an author, when you write, you really get into your story and you get a little bit protective.
Okay.
And I think having to shell out your vision to other people and start to bring them on board and say, hey, you know, you do this too, you do that too. I think you're sharing that space so much, you know? So as a writer, you want to kind of get in, be able to put your story together, build, create, and then be done when it's finished and just left for editing, rather than with a graphic novelist, you know, you got to be able to give them the scenes, they got to put them together, they got to have then their vision of what that scene looks like comes out. And it's just a lot of back and forth. So I said, hey, you know what, man, let's tell a story. Let's just tell a story. We'll give you a couple of visuals of the cape, like, you know, on the cover that you're holding up. And we also have some art out there that I have a great artist that I use who does the majority of our artwork for our superhero stories. So, you know, we just like to get into the minds of readers, and we just thought we'd just bypass doing the graphic novel thing.
I do actually have some of your art, but I think I've put it up.
I was wondering what you were looking for. I can tell it was a fly. Or what the hell is
I've
going on?
got some of the art.
We bring a guest on, he's like pouring his heart out, and Jason's back there like, man, wait, like, there's something around. I mean,
Guys,
I'm glad you showed up.
I don't fuck around with wasps, okay?
Can't say I blame you.
No, seriously, that was not a trick question. I think this is awesome. I think doing a novel is awesome, because when people think about superheroes, they either, in today's media, they're either going to think of comic books or movies. That's it, or a cartoon or something like that. Like some kind of visual reference to superheroes. And we kind of base our show off of superhero stuff. And last year at Comic-Con, there's some little tween in our, I guess she wasn't a tween. She had to be 18, right? We gave him a 3-second warning before we kicked him out. But she was like, do you guys read books without pictures?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do actually read a lot of books without pictures. But, you know, and I love how while I'm reading the story, I can create my own image of who it is. So, yeah, I just wanted to know your take on it. And that's awesome, man. So do you guys have questions?
So, did you ever see yourself writing before you started writing?
No, it was crazy, man. Like, you know, I went through, you know, college, and the one thing I despised was multiple choice tests, you know, but like on essay, like, you know, I was always like, well, I'm down to 2 answers. What should it be? I couldn't stand it. And then don't give me like A and B or B and C. Automatically gonna get it wrong. But like on essay format type of classes, I always got A's because I could explain myself, I could write it, I could put it down, I could prove that I knew something. So I guess that was always kind of in me. And then, like I said, in 2010, it was like this, I had this call in at church where my pastor was like, you know, I feel like there's somebody out there God wants to use to do something, and it might be something you've never done before. And I'm like, well, what would you have me do? And I just heard write a book. So I just jumped in, man. Started sketching out the synopsis for Star-Crossed Saga. And the challenge that I took was, I'm a huge moviegoer, love storytelling and everything. And I would sometimes, I don't know if you guys do this, sometimes you'll see a movie and like, man, that was really cool, but I wish they had done this, or I wish they had done that. So my objective was to take all those cool things that I'd always gleaned from movies that I thought weren't finished and just put them in my story. You know what I mean? So I have these huge set pieces and action sequences, you know, in all of my books, because those were the things that I felt were just out there floating that never got fully executed in the stuff that I looked at. So I was like, I'm just going to throw it in mine. So a lot of people say when they read it, it's very visually stimulating because they can see it. And my goal is to take what's in my head as I'm seeing it projected on the screen and just put it in a book, you know?
Yeah. No, and that's really cool. So, and the reason I asked is I'm very, very slowly trying to work on my own novel. And so I have one more question, and we'll get into Rue in here. But So do you, when you mentioned like writing out your synopsis, you know, I know essentially the whole book before I started writing it, but I've heard a lot of writers basically have this idea and they kind of write themselves into a corner and then figure out how to write themselves out, and then that becomes their book. Which way do you think you lean when you're writing your stories?
I took a lot of creative writing courses over time, you know, middle school, high school, and even some in college. And my structure is always an outline. You know, I'll have an outline I'll start with, and I just need to know like you say, you know, from point A to B, but now you got to fill in the middle.
Yeah.
And so I work off of outlines, and really it's just to collect my thoughts and organize them. So my outline is not this, you know, chapter 1, and I've got like, you know, 50 pages of an outline.
Right.
I literally have 2 or 3 sentences of what's going to happen in that chapter. And I can promise you this, because I'm a character-driven writer, my characters write the story. So I might say Blur is going to do this. There's a predicament that she has to get over with, you know, an enemy or even just Paladin in their relationship, and that's done. I start writing it. They start doing the dialogue thing. I start putting the emotion into it. And then sometimes I never even get to what I was going to do in that chapter with that outline. And I just move it to the next chapter and I have to move everything back down. So I just keep moving that way. This one teacher said that forget plot, because sometimes you can box yourself in with a plot. If you outline yourself into a plot only, then the thing that will be lost is the characters. And, you know, the reason that, you know, you guys, I'm sure, look at Game of Thrones and all these other shows, people attach themselves to characters now more than storyline.
Sure.
You know what I mean? A medieval story about a bunch of people trying to take over kingdoms is not anything new. You know what I mean? But those characters and all their personalities and the nuances that they have, that's what drives people to say, man, that's my favorite character. I want to see what he does this week, you know? And that's what people do. So I got that because, you know, when you write that plot, if you plot out that entire story and you say, this has to happen here, man, you get boxed in. And then when it's not happening, you get uncomfortable, and most people stop midway. They're like, I'm not finishing this. This is a mess now, you know?
Yeah.
and people, because my outline is so fluid, I really don't do a lot of rewrites because I feel pretty good. When I finish my chapter, I go, that's good. My rewrites just go back to just some formatting, but I don't ever go like ball it up and throw it away. Like, oh, that was trash. I've not gotten to that part, and I've written over 15 books. I just feel really satisfied with my outlines, you know, and they just really help me to have structure.
So
Awesome.
in the category that you're writing in, superhero fiction, right? I'm guessing there aren't really a lot of people writing superhero fiction, but if you wrote, you know, not character-based and story-driven, I'm guessing that would be super easy to fall into maybe something that's already been written before in comic books.
Right, absolutely.
You know, 'cause there's so many stories that have already been told.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of new material out there, you know. And I was in a screenwriting class, and they were based. I think there's like 6 or 7 plots, you know.
Right.
There's a chase story. There's a stop story. You know, you got to stop somebody from doing something. There's a love story, of course. There's a comedy. So there's only so many ways to write a story, and the thing that's going to get an audience engaged, or that's going to get readers connected to you, is really what you do with those characters. You know what I mean? We always know there's an enemy, there's an evil foe who has some motive, you know, whatever it is, you know. So what? You know, what's going to happen with these characters along the way that's going to be gripping and it's going to get people to say, oh man, I'm so connected. And then they lose themselves thinking that it's the story. At the end of the day, when you looked at Game of Thrones, did you really care about them killing each other and getting the Iron Throne? You wanted to know, once you got attached, you started scripting out why you thought your favorite character should gain the Iron Throne, because you were attached to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Wait, are you a Game of Thrones fan too?
I liked it. I thought he did good. Last season was a little, but
yeah, okay.
the other ones were great, and that was again. And so this is why I told you about sharing. You know, those books weren't written, and the showrunners went forward with plots and storylines of their own. And they said that they sat down with him and asked President, well, what's gonna happen here? Oh well, seriously, we'll do that. Okay, and then they go and they write it, but they're not. If it doesn't come from the visionary, man, it's gonna get lost in translation. And I think that's what we saw in that last season. It just started falling apart.
So you said that leading up to Star-Crossed Saga and the Cape and everything, you're like, you saw these movies and you're like, oh, well, I could reshape that. So do you have like your own, one of those books, one of those 15 books is what you would have done with Game of Thrones? And then we're going to see a Braxton Cosby.
No, I won't do that. You know what I mean? Put it this way. I wasn't really upset with each individual outcome of Game of Thrones. I was upset of how they got there, especially as being a writer. I've written 5 screenplays, and you can see stuff just falling apart, and you see them not being able to put it back together. And it's just like, I can't believe this is happening, So, like I said, I didn't like how they got there. If they had gotten there a little bit better, if they had stretched this out to 10 episodes like normally, I think they would have been fine. But trying to cram them into 6, it just turned into a mess.
Rue, I know you have something burning. He's been patiently waiting.
That much. First of all, confession, I hadn't read any of your books yet. I planned to, and eventually decided. Actually, I'll get to that in a second. I thought, because Jason told me about you, and I thought, okay, go look up this guy. So I go on Twitter, and I type your name in, and I search.
Where the best information comes from.
Right, nothing's ever wrong.
Well, it actually is interesting. The second result that came up was Braxton Cosby is ignorance personified. And I'm like, wait, hold up. And I go back and check, and it's like,
Twitter's the best.
June 2014. And I go, oh, and I realized I misspelled it. It was actually Braxton Crosby. So whoever Braxton Crosby is, you now know that person is ignorance personified. So I typed it properly.
This is not how we get people to come back.
I know.
I don't know who you are, but you're ignorant.
It's how you make them laugh. But hey, but the thing is, I now say, okay, fine, Twitter, you suck. I go on Google, and I start searching through, the different books you've written. Because initially I'm like, oh, he's written a book. Because typically we have guys who've been on the show, either they've written a lot of books or one book or 2. And in this case, you're the guy who's written, quite a few. So I thought, oh, interesting. The one that caught my eye, though, was, and I actually added this to a list, the School of Ministry.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? It was a book titled The School of Ministry. And I'm like, that's an unusual title for a guy who writes superhero books. Nice. There we go. So I saw that, and my first thought was, this guy is definitely faith inspired. his whole outlook. So I wasn't surprised when I heard you go.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, my question would be, how much of a role does your faith play? Because, my first question was going to be, what got you started on writing? And you kind of covered some of that. And then you went into the fact that your pastor basically had a word and had, somebody here is going to get into
a call to action
this direction. So it was a call to action for you.
Yeah.
So how much of a role does your faith play in getting you started and getting you going and actually continuing down this path?
Yeah. Well, I think so. I'm not a New York Times bestselling author yet. And I don't know if that's, what I'm aspiring to do. I think I'm still just aspiring to follow first the call to action, to just do what, God inspired me to do. And I fell in love with writing. So I write because I love it. And I think all of my books, because of my faith, it reflects in my books. So there's always some kind of a story line in the background that looms, about faith, about commitment, about dedication and things like that, and really believing in something really greater than yourself. So that's everything I've written that's fiction. It's all like that. It's all kind of tangled in. I'm not trying to fool anybody into read my books now. They go, now, it's not that at all. It's just something that's naturally me. You know what I mean? I naturally talk about my faith, and my books just have that in the background. It's just like a secondary subset of what I am. So it's not in your face. It's not meant to be that way. And it's not to trick you. It's just, if you're reading it, you'll go, oh, okay, I get that, Right. And, really the Cape, to me, the book 1 was really a redemption story about the cheetah girl, about her character and living this life that she felt worthless. She felt like she would only be something. She'd never be a wife. She'd never be a mother. She was so downtrodden with so many things about her past. And here was this guy who still believed in her and actually loved her. That was Paladin's character. And he was redeeming her from that to say, hey, you're more than what you think you are. So, and she's got this story arc that still continues all the way through. It was in Overdrive, and now we have it in Infinity 7, where she still has those issues, still has some hiccups, but she's still got somebody in her corner. I think that's all you really need sometimes, is just somebody to help root you on and push you forward. So
Yeah,
that's my faith.
Let's be honest.
That kind of brings another
the
question.
super clean characters, not fun. Okay,
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
loves the Punisher. Not that many
Yeah.
people love Plastic Man. Okay, let's.
Ironically, they're actually working on a screenplay for him. So,
Yeah, I know.
I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks
Oh
like.
wow.
I am curious though, because again, on behalf of all the people in the world who have intended to write books and never actually got around to writing them, we all hate you right now, just so you know, because you're the guy who never thought he's going to write a book, and
Right.
You've written 15.
curse you.
Yeah.
My question would be like, sometimes you say you need someone in your corner and this helps you keep going. Like, what keeps you going? 15 books is a lot of output, man.
Yeah, it is. I think because there's always another story to be told. And what I did is initially I wrote out, I took I opened up a Word document and I started going, I got this idea, this. And I started just typing like one sentence of what that book would be. And then I made a folder and put on my computer and named that folder, and that was that book. And I named that folder and that was that book. So I have them still sitting there. I probably have still 8 that are there that I haven't written yet. And I'm thinking, well, I think it's time to transition some of those into screenplays, because the screenplay is it's much shorter, obviously. Average screenplay, you've got a 90-minute movie, it's a 90-page screenplay, and those aren't 90 pages with words going from right to left all the way. It's in the middle, then you got some black space with some narrative. It's about 4 lines, and you go back to the dialogue again. So it's much quicker and easier to write, but that can also be a problem because you want to make sure your story is scripted out well. And, sometimes 90 pages just isn't enough for a writer, especially if you can write, 90,000, 100,000 word manuscript. So
Right.
I started adding on to so many things, and my greatest labor of love was the Star-Crossed Saga, because I knew the beginning of the book 1, and I knew the end of book 3. And then I had to figure out how I was going to get there.
Right.
And I didn't want book 2 to be a stepchild. Because,
That's the worst.
Gotcha, everybody's locked in. And the third one I knew would be this huge, over-the-top, probably $150 million budget movie, because everything was going to come in. I'd have so much action, and everything had to be bigger every time you write a sequel, right?
Right.
So the middle book was like, ugh, what's going to be different about this one? And it became this huge emotional story that people who really read it, they go, man, that's probably my favorite one, because of how closely knit you are to the characters. Once you kind of get into them, after you've already invested in book 1, they just start to just peel back to all these different things in book 2. So I kept adding, and then superhero stuff came around, and then it just became really fun because everybody was doing their thing. And then we co-wrote Infinity 7, Kyle and Keyshawn and myself. And that was great because they basically trusted me to put together the outline. So you take this chapter, I'll take this chapter. And we just kind of did that. And then we would all read the chapters and go, well, our character probably would do a little bit something different. And we go back and we change it. And we say, whoa, that was cool. I like what you did with my character. I actually didn't see him doing something like that. So it was real fun. And we just put that together, man. And it came out so well. We were like, geez, this is a really tight movie, So we're just waiting for some funding, because we'll put it together real quick. And I think it's going to be special.
So do you, I don't know if this, I can only think of one way to word this, and I don't mean this negatively. Do you write your books differently because you want it to be a movie, or do you write the book, or that's just kind of that's just how you see it in your head, as you kind of picture it as a movie and you just kind of put that movie into words?
I think what happens to me is it's probably half and half. I see the film in my head and I put it into an outline, and then it becomes a novel. So I did something with the author before where they gave me their screenplay, and I turned their screenplay into a novel.
Oh, wow.
So that was a little bit more of a challenge. But then you get all this extra narrative where you're really explaining and scripting out these scenes rather than, because remember, you're going to see it in the movie.
Yep.
And most times it's going to be, if somebody wrote the screenplay, they're going to say, starry sky, explosions.
Right.
You just get these bullet statements, and then the sci-fi special effects team comes in and goes, and they paint the screen and they do all this other stuff, and then it's approved by somebody. And so you're seeing that, but that's not what's written,
Right.
to the great amount of detail. But when I'm writing it, I have to take you there. I have to have the world building in place so you can go, whoa, man, like I see all of that, And some people don't, James Patterson's, he's very vanilla. He gives you a lot more plot and character rather than the world building, But then there's some great authors out there who do a lot of great world building. Octavia Butler was more character driven, when you might have the guy who wrote Red Rising, he's more world building. So it is.
I will say, in just reading The Cape, that it does play out like a movie while you're reading it. Like you're very descriptive, that does come across in your writing. So
In the words of Deadpool, very cinematic.
Yeah.
but see, I can only attest to this one. So I guess I have to pick up more.
I mean, I'm going on
I
vacation.
might have to
so
get
it's one of the things on my reading list. I'll be on vacation.
Well, and you know what you can do too, Jay, what I do, because I'm busy too, but I still like to read. I might not have time to do this, but I could do this, So there's audiobooks now, man. And there's great audiobooks out there. So when I listen to them, I used to go in the gym and I would listen to audiobooks and just play them over and over again. And that's
exercise.
Did you say Jim? Yes. No, but for real, I'm a big
When you sit down to
audiobooks
eat
guy.
donuts,
I'm a big audiobooks person. Audible is second nature to me right now. Our last couple of authors, I listened to their books. I didn't read them. So
Right.
So
well, I used to drive minimum 4.5 hours a day in traffic. So audiobooks now I get more time to read actual books because I work from home, but audiobooks used to be my main because there are only so many times you can listen to the same music over and over and over and over.
We used to work in the same place. And when I stopped working at Vonage, that's one thing I missed, not having the time to listen to audiobooks on the drive, which is ironic because I was glad for the shorter commute, but I'm like, oh man, I can't listen to the books as much as I want because it went from an hour each way to 30 minutes each way. And then it cut down to 15 minutes each way.
Yeah, you're not even gonna get started then.
Yeah.
That's enough to get to the parking lot and just look at your building and go, am I sick today?
That explained why many times I get home and spend an extra 10 minutes in the parking lot, just trying to, okay, so let's wrap this chapter up and then I'll go inside.
So
I definitely am going to cover some of your stuff this weekend.
So you mentioned, you're a physical therapist by day, author by night. Do you ever see yourself? Because you're obviously not a sit-at-home kind of guy. I'm that kind of guy. But do you ever see yourself?
Shows up in pajamas everywhere.
I'm actually I may or may not be wearing pants now. Do you ever see yourself quitting the physical therapy stuff and going full-time writing or screenwriting or anything like that?
That would be, in my mind, that's my ultimate dream job. But right now, I do love physical therapy. I'm blessed because every day I get up, I go to my job. I never say, oh man, I got it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I really have a great time. I help people out all the time. So that's cool. But, once that writing bug gets in you, like I said, you don't just fall across 15 books without just.
Right.
So
I accidentally wrote my 15th book today, man.
Yeah. And I remember when I was looking at it, I'm like, man, it's been 8 years and I've written 15 books. That's almost like 2 books a year.
That's incredible.
So I would love to turn it into that and really kind of sink my teeth into it and just focus on that only. But I've got 2 more projects in the kiln right now that I'm kind of putting together that I'm probably going to look to shopping one around to specifically just be picked up by another publisher. I've been published by another publisher before my health book. So if I can get that type of traction with one of my fiction books, I think that'll kind of be on the path that I might be able to get something going.
Sweet.
So we have had 2 other authors, or maybe 2, maybe more. I don't, a minimum of 2, but they were both full-time authors, and it didn't. It's like
One of them transitioned into becoming a full-time author.
No. He was working, but after his second book came out, he quit for sure. Like, have you ever heard of Kings of the Wild?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's an interesting read. It's very interesting.
That's one way to put it.
It's hilarious, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
His name is Nicholas Eames. He's great. We had him on the show, but now he's full-time author. But it's so interesting that you have the same passion for what you do. Just all 3 of us have everyday jobs, and we have to show up every single day. Some of us work weekends, but whatever. And then we do this on the side. And what you're saying, like the love of it, and eventually you would love for it to be your go-to thing. You understand the hustle. You understand, because I saw you at Comic Book Day, and Galactic Quest asked us to do Comic Book Day at the other store, but my wife just had a baby, so she was pregnant. And we had a lot of other stuff that we couldn't do it, but Naru just lost lighting.
Oh my God. We just disappeared there.
Hello.
Shazam!
Damn, I thought we lost him for good. But talk a little bit about the hustle from your perspective, because you also you have your own table at Atlanta Comic Con, or you have a booth.
Hey.
Drum roll. That's I promised everybody on my post. I know I tagged you guys, and that was going to be my big announcement. Was that this is the second year of Atlanta Comic Con, so I was so excited because I've done conventions since 2012. Been on the road hitting it and going to book conventions and building up an audience and things like that. So when we finally got our own Comic Con last year, I was crazy excited. So we went out there and did well, and definitely got back on the list again this year. And what me and you talked about, Jason, was coincidentally when we met at Galactic Quest, it was like, oh yeah, Atlanta Comic Con. Oh, by the way, I'm a panelist this year. So that's my big announcement to my fans who are actually going to come on and look, is that I will be paneling finally at a huge convention. So Atlanta Comic Con, I'll be doing a panel with the rise of diversity in comics and in sci-fi, and how it's having such an impact on our culture now. So what are you guys going to be paneling about?
So we actually...
That's a good question.
So,
I'm glad you asked.
A little bit on us. I know this is our show, and our fans probably already know this, but for your fans, we will also be at Atlanta Comic Con. Atlanta Comic Con was our first ever panel. So we had never done anything like it before. We show up, the 3 of us. There's one other guy, but he's currently moving from Boston to Oregon, but he will be at Dragon Con with us this year. So the 3 of us got together, and we had this grand plan. We're like, yeah, let's get together. Let's talk about how we started a podcast from nothing. Like, let's do this, let's do this. And what was it? An hour before the show, we were just like, we don't know what to do. Like, oh gosh. So we went in there, and we were just ourselves. We did this huge thing. There are guys from other podcasts, like guys that we looked up to in the realm of podcasting were there. And they came up to us after the show. Their daughter came in. At that show, that was really when we had our first real, when you get to see your fans face to face. Braxton, you do the book signings and stuff, but when you did your first book signing, and you had people come up and say, I love what you did.
Yeah.
Like, for us, it's just a show, we're just like, whatever. Like, we talk to each other. But when we had people saying how much they actually enjoyed what we did, and, people started following us on social media, and a guy created his own social media pages based off the nickname I gave him. Created everything.
Yeah, that was funny.
So weird.
In fact, he still posts on that account. He just posted the other day on that account. So
yeah, they loved it so much that that's what we picked up with. So our show, we actually go week to week and we do news and, kind of just a mashup of nerd culture and lifestyle. And when we get to the shows, we want everyone to feel invited and together. Like there is no, like we bring the crowd in. It's all inclusive. It's just basically a huge game of let's just rag on these co-hosts and
Pretty much.
and beat each other. And it's just a humor comedy show, and it's wonderful, man. I love what we do up there, except Naru.
I'm always hear you guys going
I'm
on.
always
I'm
shocked
gonna be
that
on
you throw us out.
Saturday. What day you guys doing it?
I think
We are Friday.
Friday night.
We are Friday.
Hang around
And
and check you out then.
they have moved us to one of the bigger conventions. Last year, it was really odd. We were like the last minute go-to, and they put us like way in the back. And we're like shoehorning people to go to the back, and I'm screaming at people from the
From the table, yelling into the hallway.
yeah, I was screaming into the
His wife is in the hallway like, yeah, you guys should come check out the show.
We just got people in. There was a guy who was supposed to be like at a family reunion where people started fighting and everything, and he just strolled over from the hotel and just came in and was like, all right,
That was funny.
what
Yeah.
you boys doing?
Yeah, it was great.
So yeah.
And so this year they actually put us up front.
We
So they were like, hey, we had more people than the Rocky Horror Picture Show last year.
nice.
When you can say that you beat out the Rocky Horror Picture Show in a geek and nerd culture community, then hey.
That's
all
nice.
right.
That works.
But yeah, man, that's awesome that we're all getting together. Dude, we're definitely going to have to swing. Are you going to be there all day Friday?
Yeah, I have a table. So I have the complete Star-Crossed Saga, all 4 books. I have Infinity 7, which is the newest superhero.
Somebody's
match.
shooting bombs outside my house. They found me.
And I have the Cape 1 and 2. So and some book swag and stuff like that. So I'll be conventioning Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I'll take a break. I think Saturday night after the show is when I do my panel. So
Are you going to be at Dragon Con at all this year?
no, I'm actually not going to be at Dragon Con because I will be at Hero Con in Nashville
Okay.
at the Opry House. So missed Dragon Con again, but it was a toss up, and got superhero books and go to Superhero Con. I do want to eventually get to Dragon Con. I would have liked to get a table. If I would have gotten a table, I might have squeezed it in, but they're I think they're on the same weekend.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's we call it convention season. It's like we have to get ready, and then last year Atlanta Comic Con was our first, and then we had to do Dragon Con immediately after that.
Last second, we met the director for the podcasting track at Atlanta Comic Con. 3 days later, he's like, hey, do you guys want a panel at Dragon Con? We're like, yeah, sure. So then 2 weeks later, we're like, okay, let's do Dragon Con now. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah. So
our show is when you go out there and you look, and it's like, oh, there are all these nerd, podcasts. I like to think that ours is pretty genuine, and but yeah, man, it's a lot like this. I never thought in my and the funny part is that about a year or 2 years ago, I thought to myself, because my brother always tells me, he's the other host on the show, he's like, Jason, you should just write a book. And I'm like, I don't want to write a book, man. And he's like, no. Like, we have these great ideas. You should write a book. And I'm like, there's a lot that goes into writing a book. Like, you have to be real dedicated. I can come up with great ideas.
Right. But to stay with it and then fill it in is tough.
I can fill it in, but then it fizzles out. Like, it's like a great firecracker that fizzles out. It's like a super cheap, great one. Okay.
You know what to do, right? Use the folder system. Type it out, put them in folders.
Oh, no. I've already thought about this. I'll use the co-writer one. So I write the first chapter, and then I just let you guys go to town.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So
The
I'm
book
like,
written by Jason Miller, and then everybody else.
as well as
Yeah.
like literally.
Yeah.
But I thought to myself, because I'm a huge Heroes fan, the TV show Heroes,
Yeah.
Season
from
1.
way back in
The original one.
the original
Yeah,
Heroes.
Not
season
the
1.
rehash.
Yeah, no, the original where the Flyman.
Hayden Pantier.
Yeah. Oh, God. Save the cheerleader, save the world.
Save the cheerleader.
But anyway, I'm a huge fan because it's just like what your book is about, where normal people just end up with these powers.
Yeah.
And just like in the book, to me, the powers amplify your inner self. Like,
Absolutely.
if you're good, you're not going to use it for evil. Just because
Captain America.
you have the ability to fly, you're not going to go rob banks if you're a good person inside.
Before.
Right.
You're going to use it to help somehow. So that's why I loved Heroes. And I was like, man, that would be so great to do a book like that. And you beat me to it, Braxton.
You know, there's always room for another spin on it.
I mean,
just-
you got
I love-
Thanos and Darkseid. You could write your own book. Just change the names, you know?
Yeah, I'll just use your same story and just, character driven, right? Literally everything is the same. I just change characters' names.
There you go.
I'll see you next year at Atlanta Comic Con. Hey, Braxton, look at my book. It's about the cape. It's called The Anti-Cape.
You'd be surprised that'll probably sell too.
Paladin. His name is Guardian.
Yeah.
The
Weird.
asteroid cross
Look at this already.
Cheetah's Jaguar. Yeah, look at
The Galaxy Cross Saga. Let's do that.
Cheetah? No, sir. Panther. Like, just another large cat. Let's just
Panther
do it.
girl.
Then people be like, well, are you trying to rip off the Black Panther movies? No, I'm not, actually. She was a stripper. But not anymore.
Not a stripper, dude. A dancer.
No. She worked at the Panther Club. See what I mean?
And she was black.
No. See, that's going too far to Marvel. Marvel will sue me for that, okay? I'm surprised we got away with a Spider-Man shirt and half an Iron Man shirt here.
I paid for the shirt.
Crop top.
Yeah, crop top. Yeah, that's...
I would not be surprised if you stood up and your belly button showed, Tank, just because all I ever see from you is your chest. You could own literally only crop tops. I have no
You
idea.
haven't figured it out yet. Jason's the nerdy one. Tank is the pretty one with the hair, and I'm the tall, dark, handsome one. You can guess why, but yeah, it's pretty
I
much.
got that.
The glasses.
It's the glasses.
After just 52
Just
minutes,
trying
I
to fit in
got
with
that.
it.
Yeah.
Well, that was our roles until Braxton came on, and then you find out he's a physical therapist, he's a writer, he's a model. The guy does everything.
Actor.
Name something you don't do.
Drink soda.
Oh, smoke cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
There
See?
you go.
Let's all go pick up smoking and make us cooler.
Yeah,
I
you
smoke-
can have that one.
I smoke cigars.
Don't mess with that.
I'm already cool.
Is this the 50s? We're going to go pick up cigarettes and... All right, Braxton. So we do this with all of our hosts, or all of our guests that we bring on. We have to run you through the gauntlet.
Boom, boom, boom.
Unfortunately, it's only the three of us. Typically, Brandon has the best questions at the end. But we're going to run you through the same questions that we run all of our other guests through. So I'll go ahead and lead it off. Name your favorite comic book inspired movie.
Oof. Comic book inspired movie. At this point, Black Panther.
Your necklace reminds me of the
Why?
Black Panther necklace.
I was going to T'Challa on him. Did y'all
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was going to say it because it was on the black shirt. I saw it. I
But I had
saw
to
it.
go with the
Thundercats.
Thunder.
Oh!
Thunder.
yes.
I was just thinking of Tigra like
Yo.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Thundercats were awesome. Let's get a remake of that. How about that?
You
Yo.
got to do it right. That's the fear. And I've heard about scripts bouncing around, but I think they don't even have the faith in what they're writing because they're like, man, this is going to be trash.
They messed up G.I. Joe and Transformers eventually. I don't want them to touch Thundercats.
This is true.
Yeah, they probably would.
All right, so Black Panther, for what reason?
It to me, the storyline was the most congruent. It wasn't a lot of there weren't a lot of holes in it from a writer's standpoint, and I think it really carried you. They say like you guys like Nolan, right? Who did the
Yep.
Dark Knight? So
Yes, sir.
he says that when him and his brother write, every 2 pages somebody gets slapped in the face, and it's not to the point that somebody literally did. It's just that they're doing something to wake you back up, so you're not falling out of the story the entire time. You know, something has to happen. Boom, boom. You got to keep staying awake. And I think Black Panther as a Marvel movie probably came the closest to doing that, in that it really never let you drop. Before Black Panther came out, Avengers 1 was my favorite because I thought that one did it. And it was like carrying you. And then when Black Panther came along, it was just great. And then I just, from beginning to end, and I loved the way it ended. So I'm always a big, how are they going to end this thing, you know? Yep. And I think that they did such a good job at the ending of Black Panther. It kind of just left you right there. So it was good. Well done.
All right, Tank.
So I'm going to go with, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
I'm going invisible.
You perv. I'm just playing.
That is
invisible.
I mean,
why invisible? No, that's a good one, though.
Shazam.
Most people don't say that. So why invisible? Where'd he go?
See, it worked. I mean, that's why I wanted to do it. No, I just, you know, if you think about invisible is like, man, for a moment that you can just enter a space and people not know you're there. And it wouldn't be like to steal stuff and all that. You know, of course, you probably tempted to do that. But I just think that, like, you can fly. Flying's cool. I'm not too crazy about height, so that was cool a little bit. Super strength only goes so far. You're eventually going to want to punch somebody and just see if they die. You know, I don't want to do anything like that. So I think invisible is the most non-invasive way to say, man, I'm super cool and I can still be incognito. People don't have to follow after me or anything like that, but I know I can do it. And, with great power comes great responsibility, that whole mantra. So I think being invisible would just be real cool.
And you could hide like in the corner of the room. Absolutely. When your wife is eating all your Oreos. You're like, I knew it. I knew you were eating my Oreos. Back up.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Kelsey. Eating my Oreos. I saw you. Seen it.
I seen it.
All right, Rue.
My question would probably be, I was going to ask something along the lines of what Tank asked, but I'll flip it. Who would you say is apart from your characters you've created, would you say is your favorite comic book character, and why?
Always been Batman.
Really?
Because he's the thinker. He's the thinker. He's got the cool gadgets. That was always cool. He's always got something he can pull off his belt. But at the end of the day, even his enemy, his whole character in that story has always been psychological, and mental. So even his foes are thinking. You can see the wheels turning. Even as much of a brute as Bane was, they were always thinking. So it was really just about outwitting each other and just using gadgets here and there and whatever strength and training you had, to be a detective. So I'm excited with Reeves taking over Batman because I saw what he did with the Planet of the Apes thing. I thought he was really steady with those three. Yes. And for him to be going, he said he's really focusing on the detective of Batman in this one.
That's good.
Whether or not, we love the actor that they picked to play it, whether we love him or not is I think he's got the acting chops. I don't know if when I see him, I'm going to be like, yeah, Batman. Because I was a huge Christian Bale fan before. I liked him in Equilibrium. Did you guys ever see that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Gun Fu.
I loved him in Equilibrium. So when I found out he was Batman, I was like, yeah, So I was excited. I'm not so excited with what's his name again?
Robert Pattinson.
I'm not so excited with him just from the look wise, but I've seen some of the indie films he's done, and he's gotten really solid as an actor. But I have a lot more faith in Reeves, and if Reeves and the team felt as if he fit what they've already been putting together, then I think it's going to be solid. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm with you.
So here's something real quick on that. Literally, you're trying to come up with his name, Robert Pattinson. You're like, oh, what's the guy's name? And I immediately just said Twilight, right?
Absolutely.
The kid from Kingsman, Eggsy.
Yeah,
I don't know who
Taron Egerton
played him. I just watched Robin Hood, right? I thought the movie was great. The one with Jamie Foxx.
Yep.
I read if there would be a second one, and they said that there is a script for it, but the guy, Eggsy, said that he would never do it.
It's Taron Egerton.
Yeah. Yes. So after The Kingsman, he hates that everyone calls him Eggsy, and he doesn't want to be typecast like Robert Pattinson from Twilight. Or, anybody for that.
And with that as an actor, because I've done some film, I've done some TV and done a film, and as an actor, I think you have to have. It depends on your acting goals. If you want to someday win an Academy Award or Golden Globe and all that stuff, then yeah, you got to take that angle. You don't want to be typecast. People, it's going to be hard for them to see you as somebody else. If you're out to just break in, do a zillion movies like Samuel Jackson. You just jump in and you don't care how they get you there. Just get me there. Let me do my lines. Let me get in and out. And that's what he did. So I guess for him as an actor, he just doesn't want to. You think about somebody, the guy who played Harry Potter.
Daniel Radcliffe.
He'll never.
Radcliffe can't do anything else.
No.
He can't.
Well, that's what they thought about Keanu Reeves too.
Yeah.
Right.
But now, because when John Wick 1 came out, I was like, oh, it's Neo.
Yep.
I love Keanu Reeves, and John Wick is one of my favorite movies. But I still saw him as Neo. But now that he's done John Wick 3 and it's going even further than that, now he's John Wick.
Yeah.
So he typecast himself twice.
Well, I think what you can do as an actor is you can transition yourself into phases of where you are as an actor. So we knew him as the young Keanu Reeves in the
Bill and Ted.
In the Matrix, and then kind of took some time off, and then he went, "Hey, look at me at John Wick," and we were kind of like, "Well, I don't know." And then after a while, I was like, "Oh, he's still cool, and he's an older cool now in John Wick." So, this guy, like you said, the one who did Kingman, he's just real young, so he's probably like, "Nah, I'm good. I want to be able to kind of branch myself out a little bit."
And I'm hoping that the Keanu Reeves angle is kind of where this Robert Pattinson is going with Batman.
Right.
I do think he's a good actor. Not great. I do think he's good.
Yeah.
But just like when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman, I'm going to hold all of my say-so because I'm a huge Batman guy. Hold it all until I see him in the suit.
Yeah.
And then when Ben Affleck was kicking ass in Dawn of Justice,
yeah.
kicking ass, which, I'm sorry, but when I was reading this in the first chapter after the prologue, they're fighting and they're smashing through crates, and that was the scene in my mind. Was the Batman fight scene. I was like, smash some crates, guys. But hey, Braxton, it's been an honor having you on, my man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. It was awesome. And I will be seeing you guys July 12th.
You want to hang out in January too?
I'm going to come to your panel Friday night, and I'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday selling all of these goodies. I got Jay's favorite one. I got all of these Supernova, Solstice.
Yo, make sure you get down to that evil place and get your workout for your autograph hand.
Cape 2, the evil place. Yeah, there's Cape 1 and Infinity. Look how thick this one is.
Dang.
100 pages of superhero fun.
Quick question: are all your co-writers also going to be at Atlanta Comic-Con? Are they going to be?
They're not going to be here this year. We were trying to plan it, so I think in the next one we're gonna. Well, hopefully when we have book 2, they'll be down for that one. But I'll be going it alone. My wife will be there. She always comes with me, so we always have a great time. And we're just gonna be moving books and meeting people and having a good time. Atlanta Comic-Con was great last year, so hopefully we'll get the same push this year. And
it's always a good time.
Paneling Saturday night, diversity, the rise of diversity in sci-fi and in superhero books. So books, movies, and the whole 9 yards.
So tell all of our listeners where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so on Twitter, it's at Braxton A. Cosby. Instagram, it's Braxton A. Cosby. And if you go on Facebook, it's Braxton A. Cosby, all the same. You can also go to my website, which is www.braxtoncosby.com. And if you want to know more about the publishing company, what we do, if you have books that you guys want to put together, you can go to cosbymediaproductions.com. And there is contact us. You can go ahead and send in your email, and we'll respond to you and see what we got. But we've got a ton of great books over there. A lot of award-winning books and authors, audiobook, ebook, paperback, anything you like to read, we've got you covered.
Awesome. All right, Tank. Tell them where to find you, buddy.
Yeah, you guys can find me all over the internet at The Caped Critic. Like we've been talking, we're going to be at Atlanta Comic-Con in July. Our panel's Friday night. We're going to be at Dragon Con. Our panel is going to be Saturday nights at Dragon Con. If you guys are around the Atlanta area, make sure you come check us out and keep an eye on the channel. We got a lot of stuff working in the background we're trying to put together, so it's good.
Yeah, we do. We hustle. Rue, tell them where to find you, buddy.
You can find me on the interwebs at the Niger Nerd. As you've also heard, I sometimes write stuff on our website, TheNerdsFromWork. Should probably mention this. I don't know if I should. Yeah, I probably should.
You're fired.
Not only are we going to be doing the whole thing, with AtlantaCon and DragonCon, but I'm also going to be one of the guys paneling at DragonCon at the Blurs Unite panel, which is a big honor, huge honor. I still don't know what they're thinking, but hey, you let me in.
Yeah, how did you get in?
Right?
Left the door unlocked. He snuck in.
Yeah, man.
I don't know how that happened. I could have swore that I was up for that one this year.
I know, right? Crazy.
Hey, you guys can find me at Houdini0333 on Instagram and the old tweet machine. You can find all of us at nerdsfromwork.com. TheNerdsFromWork.com. There we go. You would think that I've done this before. You can find us at Instagram and Twitter at NerdsFromWork. They don't like the word "the." And hey, be sure to support us on Patreon. Follow us on Twitch live Tuesdays, every Tuesday, unless I have a baby or unless Brandon dies. So in those two scenarios, we're not going to be on. But every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, hey, be sure to see all of us, including Braxton. Okay, we understand. He's a better looking dude than us. But you can see all of us at Atlanta Comic-Con. Hey, be sure to come through, check us all out. And hey, until next time, peace.